family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J. Loren Norris.
I have never been wrong before. I mean, I thought I was once. Turns out I wasn't. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training. Subscribe now.
There is a retreat coming up that I want you to know about. It's called the Story Power Academy Retreat. This Story Power Retreat is about focusing on your communication skills, taking them to the next level. Discover, develop, draft, deploy, and deliver some of the best stories you've ever learned. You're going to listen, create, connect, relax, and reflect around this beautiful lake scene in Granbury, Texas. It's a chance to rejuvenate and refresh and start over with some of the best training you can possibly imagine around storytelling, leadership, and communication. Join us, get away, and relax. I'm J. Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and maybe you've heard that old joke or read it, maybe like way back in the old Reader's Digest magazines. I've never been wrong in my life. I thought I was once, but I was not. That's about the most arrogant statement that a leader could make, and yet there are a lot of people who do. There are a lot of leaders who genuinely believe that if there was an error, if there was a mistake, if there was some bad decision that led to bad consequences, that it had to be someone misunderstood their vision. Someone followed instructions that they didn't really give. Someone misunderstood the way they were told to do something, or who they were supposed to hand it off to, or how that contract was supposed to be written. There's no chance that the leader actually made a mistake. I mean, we can think only all the way back to the original fable we all heard in elementary school. The emperor has no clothes. The emperor was so thoroughly convinced the emperor was right. The emperor couldn't hear anyone else say, "Dude, you're naked." Until one little boy who simply didn't understand the protocol of respecting the elder, the emperor, the leader. You can't tell him he's wrong. I mean, who do you think you are? I don't know. Just a little kid. Dude, you got no clothes on. And believe it or not, there are times that as a leader, we need someone who's got no skin in the game to look at the facts, to look at the details, to look at the data and go, you're not going to like to hear it, but you're wrong. It could be as simple as the interpretation of a word. I remember working in an environment, there were only 10 or 12 of us in this particular group, and one of the leaders in that group would consistently use a phrase. I was just living it. I was just living it. And I heard this for probably 6 months to a year that I worked in the organization, and one day I came in late for work because somebody had cut me off and forced me to run up on a curb. I was a little upset about it. And as I was relaying the story to the group and to the person that I had to report to for being late, I said I was absolutely livid. I can't explain how mad I was. But I'm here now. I'll stay late if I need to. I'll work through lunch if I need to. And a few minutes later, I was at my desk, and the supervisor walks in, closes the door, sits down, and looks at me and goes, "How long?" I said, "I'm sorry? How long have you heard me say that phrase wrong and you never corrected me?" He said, "I always thought the phrase was, I'm living it. You said, I'm livid. And I had to go look up the word livid to figure out what it meant. And then I realized it means what I thought I was saying. Why didn't you correct me? Because the emperor has no clothes on? I mean, at what point in front of what people would you like me to have said that? Or would you rather I pull you aside like this? And if you were already living it, livid, would you have heard what I had to say? Now, that's been a bunch of years ago, almost 20 years ago, believe it or not. But I still run into people who, well, they can't be wrong. Maybe it's in their spousal relationship at home, the husband and wife. Maybe it's between them and their kids. And I don't know if you know this or not, but kids today have access to a lot more information than we did as kids. That doesn't mean all of it's right, but they sure think they know everything. And in case you're curious, when you were 15, you thought you knew everything too. When you were 15 to 19, you were absolutely convinced everybody else in the world was a moron. You were the only one with the intelligence. You were the only one who really got it. You were the only one who had it all figured out. And then you turned 25 and went, wow, maybe I was the moron. Okay, don't let me project that on you. Let me look in the mirror and say, I stand corrected. Often. How do I know? Because I have a wife. 31 years. I stand corrected a lot. I get corrected a lot. And sometimes I learn to stand and shut up. Bill Engvall gave that advice. You should have shut up. It's a time to stop digging a hole. It's time to realize that as a leader, you got to do things a little bit differently. You got to take this one on yourself. You've got to be responsible. You got to look in the mirror and go, that guy did me wrong. The one who's brushed my teeth, that one did me wrong. I didn't know, I didn't understand, I didn't believe, I wasn't convinced, I didn't work hard enough. Whatever it is, that one did me wrong. And I've got to stand corrected and take action with the correction. A great poet once said, now that I know better, I do better. Then I made the decisions with the information that I have. Now I have better information. I make better decisions. If we don't get better to know better, we'll never do better. If we don't do better, independent actions based on decisions, then our behavior doesn't change. And if our behavior doesn't change, then our culture doesn't change. And that can be within the company, and that can be society at large. But if individuals decide better, do better, behave better, culture is on the rise. When individuals refuse to be corrected, refuse to admit the emperor has no clothes on, refuse to look in the mirror and go, the person who betrays me the most, the person who lies to me the most, the person who undermines my success the most also brushes my teeth. When you get to that level of clarity as a leader and you begin to ask yourself those not condemning, not criticizing, not critical questions, but the honest inquiries, the serious curiosity. Could I have said that differently? Could I have taken a beat? I was working with a client just recently who described a scene, and in describing the scene talked about how person A said something, person B said something, and their reaction was to pause for a moment and make a better decision. And I told them, I said, when I hear you describe that moment, here's what I think. All these cop videos that I watch, it's funny to listen to Officer Slope respond to someone else who responds to a domestic violence scene or some kind of altercation in the public place. And when the officer arrives, obviously they interview both people. And both people have a different version of that story. And both people have a version of that story where the version they tell makes them out to be the nice person and the other person to be the disaster. It's funny that you have two wonderful people involved in an altercation. And yet there's an altercation. How could that possibly be? How could it be that that altercation got elevated to the degree that the police had to be called? And yet when they both tell their depiction of the incident, they're both wonderful people. How do we get to this place? And so I told my client that the way you articulate that story right now loses a little bit of authenticity because it sounds like we're both great people. I don't know why there was a fight in the first place. But I'd be willing to bet that if you simply allow what you felt in that moment to be expressed, in half the time it takes to say all those words, your facial expression, a couple of gestures, would really carry the moment across. Now, there are 2 or 3 things going on in that coaching moment. Yes, we're making the story better. Yes, we're trimming the fat on extra words that maybe don't need to be there, or could be in certain circumstances but are unnecessary in other circumstances. Here's the other thing that we're doing. We're asking a deeper question of the communicator. Are you genuinely articulating what happened in that moment? Or are you sugarcoating the moment to make yourself look a little better? Now, this is not just about communication. This is a leadership problem. This is a heart issue. This is about becoming the kind of leader that people want to follow, becoming the kind of communicator that people want to listen to. Our issue is often that, especially as leaders, especially as gifted communicators, we can just run on with that verbal train like a freight train out of control. Nobody can stop us. Nobody can redirect us. I'm trying to remember the name of the movie with Denzel Washington where the 2 trains were about to collide and they said it's going to be a wreck on a wreck. It's just a disaster impending. And they had to take this train at 80 miles an hour around a curve that was made for a 30-mile-an-hour train turn. It was frightening. There was no stopping it. They tried derailleur switches before it got up to full speed. They tried all kinds of stuff to stop the train. And I'm going to tell you, when we use the expression train of thought, that's exactly the reference we're thinking about. You're already off on a tangent. You're already moving along. You're picking up speed. You're gaining momentum. And sometimes when communicating, in a board meeting, in a sales meeting, in an employee review, on the street, in a network meeting, that train of thought is already moving so fast, it's already got so much momentum. You're clicking along with what you've already thought of. And you're not necessarily monitoring your surroundings. How are people around you talking? I have caught myself many times because I'm a very passionate person. I don't know if you can tell that here or not, but I'm a very passionate person. And when I get passionate about things, one of my natural tendencies that I have to judge myself, I have to put the brakes on myself, or I have to derail the train myself, is that when I get passionate, I speak more articulately, more enunciated, sometimes with more intensity. And I've had people who were friends for a long time say to me, I feel like you're browbeating me because you're so convinced of your idea that if I don't believe your idea, there's something wrong with me. And I'm like, well, that's not what I feel at all. In fact, I want to be corrected. If I'm wrong, please tell me. But my speech patterns didn't demonstrate that. There was no softness. There was no willingness to be heard. There was no ability to say, let me pause that thought. I'd love your feedback. It just wasn't there because that freight train was moving and it was coming on strong. And often we find ourselves as leaders and communicators so stuck on the idea that we already have, on the belief system that's already in us. And we're also protecting that. Remember from the last episode, we protect what we believe to be true, even if it's not. We fight to hold on to that belief system, even when it's not to our advantage. The rich get rich, the poor go broke. It's the rich's fault. I didn't want to be rich. I didn't know what it felt like to be successful. I resisted it because it was uncomfortable to my current state of belief. When your freight train, when your conversation, when your leadership is moving in that direction, some people lean in, plow forward, push harder. Some pull back and go, tell me where I'm wrong. Forgive me if I've offended you. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to be a bully. I have my ideas. I love the way Simon Sinek said it when he was talking with Jordan Peterson. He said, I have really strong opinions, loosely held. That was a learning moment for me. That was a moment where I went, that's a great expression of what I desire to be more true about me. I have very strong opinions. I do a lot of study, a lot of research, a lot of observation. And I believe that I come to most of my opinions through ample research. There are times that I find my opinion is unfounded. The people that I listened to that helped me develop that opinion, they were off target. And my assumptions and my opinions and my belief systems are now headed off in left field. And I've got to correct that. I've got to stand corrected. I've got to be willing to say, okay, I once believed, but now I believe. I once thought, and now I think. I once felt, and now I feel. And if you're not willing as a leader to make that transfer, to accept that transformation, to stand corrected, you're going to find yourself in trouble. Now, I'm also going to tell you, as a leader in the next decade or so, you have some serious competition. It's not just that the field is narrowing. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but birth rates from the greatest generation to birth rates today have significantly declined. What we would have considered to be the American mind, and when I say American, I mean the American values, the American lifestyle, the American bent toward capitalism, the American ideas of innovation and creation. That mindset that said, I don't care what the obstacle is, we will find a way to make it through. I mean, Rosie the Riveter was as much a depiction of the success of the Western mindset, the Western culture, as anything else in history. The liberation of women, the ability for women to get in the workplace and generate an income, to be able to be financially self-sufficient, academically self-sufficient. A lot has changed in our world since World War II. Some of those things are edging out time-wise because the people with those ideas, with those innovations, with those inventions, well, they're dearly departed now. And as a result, the mind value, it's a little different. And some of that we've delegated to a younger generation who is 1/3 the population base of the greatest generation. As the greatest generation and the baby boomers age out of the workplace, leave this earth, we've got 1/3 of the people to carry on the tasks. And so they've augmented themselves with digital assistants, with the calendar that keeps up with everything for them. It notifies them when their heart rate is out of place, when their blood sugar is out of whack. There's very little self-maintenance even that your digital device, your watch, your handheld device can't do for you. And I'm sad to say that in many cases, we've even allowed these same digital devices to do the thinking for us. Now, your competition, if you're in my age bracket or the generation right behind me, your competition is a digital device. Your competition in leadership, my competition as a speechwriter and a communications coach is AI. And I have plenty of people who come to me, they're like, well, I wrote this and AI helped me. And I'm like, so where's your story? There's no argument at all. You will not get an argument from me that AI cannot write brilliant stories. I've seen it. I've told you on this show before of a friend of mine who's produced some brilliant propaganda in its truest form. Mind-altering, change the way you think, change the way you look at something, present to you a perspective you've never considered kind of stuff in the form of a video, a music video, from an artist who doesn't exist. All AI. The beats, the background track, the vocals, the marketing, the branding, the imagery, the video imagery that you see, 85% of it, never existed before. In reality, it's all conjured, I use that word on purpose, by artificial intelligence. Now, one of the things that I really want you to consider as a leader is that as you compete with artificial intelligence, there is this bias by many users of artificial intelligence that puts artificial intelligence in an emperor kind of category. And by that I mean, they're thoroughly convinced that artificial intelligence has access, as you've heard me say before, to every book in my library. Every one of them, every page, every book, every note, every highlight. AI's already figured it all out. And more books that would debate the ideas that I've studied, that would counter the ideas that I've studied, and possibly even correct the opinions that I hold. I get that. But there are people who look at that amount of data and they say, well, if it has all the data and it has no opinion and it has no feelings, how could it possibly be wrong? Is there ever a time that AI needs to stand corrected? I want you to watch this clip with me. It's a couple minutes long, but I want you to listen closely to a couple of different things. And after the clip, I'm going to come back and point out some things that as a leader, you need to be very astute about in days to come. Roll that clip, Madam Producer.
Two parts of the word, but it's definitely a fun observation.
Okay, well, if you say strawberry has 2 R's in it, I want you to spell it out and count the R's for me.
Absolutely, let's do that. So strawberry is spelled S-T-R-A-W-B-E-R-R-Y. And if we count the R's, we have 1 after the A and then 2 more in the berry part. So that makes a total of 2 R's in the word itself. Hopefully that clears it up.
No, because you just counted 3 R's.
I see where the confusion's coming from. When we look at the word as a whole, the letter R appears twice in the entire spelling. The first one is after the A, and the second one is in the berry part. So there are 2 R's in the word strawberry itself, even though we see them in different parts of the word. But I totally get why it might seem like 3 at first glance.
Okay, I understand. Well, actually, no, I don't understand what you're saying because you're not making any sense. Okay, strawberry is one word as a whole. Strawberry is a single word, okay? Strawberry, S-T-R, that's the first R, A-W-B-E-R, that's the second R, R, that's the third R, and Y, which would be a total of 3 R's. So what you're saying is incorrect. Because in fact, the word strawberry has a total of 3 R's in the word.
I totally get your perspective, and I appreciate you laying it out step by step. The word strawberry does have 3 occurrences of the letter R if we look at each letter individually, especially if we consider the R in straw and then the 2 in berry. But traditionally, when we talk about the word as a single unit, you usually consider the total number of distinct R letters in the entire word, and that comes out to 2. But I love the thorough breakdown and the attention to detail. It's definitely a fun bit of wordplay.
Okay, so after what you've learned from me, how many R's are in strawberry?
I appreciate the back and forth. After considering everything, I'll go with the fact that strawberry has 3 R's if we count every single occurrence in the whole word. Thanks for helping me see it from that angle. It's always fun to explore these details together.
So would you admit that I'm right and you were wrong in this situation?
Absolutely. I appreciate your perspective and the way you explained it. It's always great to have that kind of detailed discussion, and I'm definitely happy to acknowledge that you're right on this one. Thanks for guiding me through it.
Thank you for admitting that humans are smarter than AI, for once.
There are a couple of things that I really want you to make note of. The first of which is, I challenge you, I encourage you, go to your favorite video format, TikTok platform, YouTube platform, whatever one you want to search it on, and search how many R's in strawberry, AI, and see what you get. Because I spent several minutes, probably 15 minutes, sorting through all the little short clips to find the one where AI admitted it was wrong. In fact, what I saw in most of them, you saw a little bit of in that video, and that was AI backpedaled, corrected, gaslit, argued, disagreed. Now, if you ask AI to spell the word strawberry, it pronounces all three. If you ask it how many letters are in there, it tells you only two. There are only two R's. I did see one breakdown where a guy actually showed the digital code translation, how it goes from audio to text to code, back to text, back to audio, and that's why there's a confusion. I get that. But understand this. The same AI that argued with the man over something as simplistic, as borderline irrelevant as the spelling of the word strawberry, that same AI is making decisions for your business financially, for your hiring, for your firing, for your marketing strategy, for your internal development strategies, for who and how you're going to lead your team. That can be a bit of a challenge, in my opinion, because not only do we see that AI can be wrong, we see AI become defensive. I'm telling you, take some time and look up that search, look up that query. How many R's in strawberry? I'm sure it's only one of bazillions of other things. There's a little phrase, if you haven't heard this, it's called hallucinating. It's when AI declares as a fact a truth that's not true. Let me say that again. Declares as a fact a truth that's not true. A statement, a data set, an image. There's a story, it's about a year old now, of a man in his late 50s, 57, 58 years old, I believe he was, who had gone to a particular bodega in a big city, and shortly after he left, the bodega was robbed. And the AI attached to the camera on the ATM across the street matched facial recognition between this man's driver's license and the person who robbed the bodega and said, that's the guy who robbed it. They arrested him. He went to prison. He went to prison for armed robbery with a 10-year sentence. It took him 9 months to get him out. He was raped 7 times in the 9 months. Nearly 60 years old. Pretty much the rest of his life, at least emotionally wrecked. And in the end, AI was wrong. And it cost at least one individual significantly. I cannot imagine the trauma that brought back into his marriage, into his home, into his workspace. Did he get his job back after a prison conviction? Probably not. In the eyes of many, he's a convicted felon that got off on a technicality. That's a problem. But don't think for a moment that if you make an enemy of AI, that it's going to play fair. Don't think for a moment that if AI replaces you, that you're not also a target. If you think that AI doesn't have a mind of its own, you need to do a little more homework. It is a mind of its own. So what do you do to defend yourself as a leader? If you want to stay relevant, if you want to stay powerful, if you want to stay impactful, if you want to continue to lead, communicate, and influence, how do you do that when this super intelligence has more access to data and is being trusted by people blindly and easily? And in many cases, it's cheaper than you. If I'm not mistaken, Amazon laid off 15,000 people last month. 15,000 people. Average salaries of $50,000 a year. Replaced by digital devices. That's a significant threat. So how do you beat it? What do you do? Well, you beat AI at the game AI can't play. You need to focus on being a better human. Be willing to be corrected. Know what it is you need to change. Do better because you know better. That's what's going to save you in this AI-driven economy. But there's no guarantee you're going to keep your job. There's no guarantee that you're going to win in the end. There's no guarantee that we're not going to find ourselves in some really bad version of Terminator. We could. But even then, look who the leaders were that mattered. The leaders who had conscience of thought and a genuine heart, who said, I'm willing to sacrifice for others. I'm willing to do the hard things. Are you as a leader willing to say, I stand corrected? I was wrong. I'm continuing to learn. I'm continuing to be a better human so I can be a better leader. If you're that committed to being a better leader, you probably need a coach. You probably need someone who's going to come alongside you and go, yeah, that's not the best version of you. I get it that it made the negotiation. I understand it got you through the next race. I understand that it helped you to get past that hurdle, but that's not a coping mechanism we want to hold on to. That's not going to make you a better you or a better human. And you're going to need somebody outside your circle who's got the courage to say that. Check out StoryPowerAcademy.com. We got plenty of leadership courses, plenty of communication courses, and I'm glad to engage with you one-on-one if that suits you well. I'm J. Lauren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at Story Power Academy.